The message came through standard mercenary channels at 800 Galactic Standard Time. Captain Zexthul read it 3 times before accepting the contract. 20 million credits to eliminate a small human research station. The target was Kepler 442b, a nothing world on the galaxy's outer rim. Intel reports showed 23 scientists and maybe 5 security guards. Easy money. Zexthul had been killing for the Vorthak Syndicate for 15 years. His scales bore scars from a dozen worlds, and his weapon had ended more lives than he bothered to count. The Krillian warrior stood 3 meters tall and weighed as much as a ground vehicle. His team was just as deadly. 12 elite killers who had never failed a mission. Humans, said his second-in-command, Grixnall, reading over the mission brief. Soft pink things from that backwater death world. This will be over in an hour. The other mercenaries laughed. Everyone knew about Deathworlders, primitive species from hostile planets who thought they were tough because they survived bad weather. The galaxy had seen dozens of them. They all died the same way when they met real soldiers. Zexthul's ship dropped out of hyperspace above Kepler 442b at dawn. The research station sat in a valley between 2 mountain ranges. It looked exactly like the Intel photos. Simple prefab buildings connected by covered walkways, a small landing pad with 2 cargo ships, solar collectors and communication arrays. Nothing threatening. Scan for weapons, Zexthul ordered. Minimal readings, his weapons officer reported. Personal sidearms, maybe some mining charges, nothing military grade. Standard breach protocol. Fast and clean. Leave no witnesses. The assault began with orbital bombardment. Plasma bolts from the ship's main guns turned the outer defenses into smoking craters. The communications array vanished in a ball of fire. Power lines snapped and sparked. Right on schedule. Zexthul led his team down in 2 assault pods. They hit the main building's roof and burned through the hull plating in seconds. Smoke filled the corridors as the mercenaries spread out through the facility. Their thermal scopes showed human heat signatures scattered throughout the complex. Scared scientists hiding in storage rooms and laboratories. Too easy, Grixnall muttered over the comm. That was when everything went wrong. The first mercenary died before anyone saw what killed him. Krillvex was checking a maintenance closet when something grabbed him from behind. His neck snapped with a wet crack that echoed through the corridor. His body hit the floor with a thud that made the other mercenaries spin around. Nothing there. Just an empty hallway and Krillvex's corpse. Contact! Zexthul barked into his comm. Unknown hostile. Form up and advance. The second death came, 30 seconds later. Yexmore was watching a junction when the lights went out. In the darkness, something moved. When emergency lighting kicked in, Yexmore was down with his weapon missing and his throat torn open. What's happening? Grixnall's voice cracked with something that might have been fear. Unknown, Zexthul replied, but he was starting to understand. These weren't scientists. At least some of them weren't. The human appeared without warning. Male, average height, wearing simple work clothes, no armor, no visible weapons. He stepped out of a side passage like he was taking a casual walk. Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, according to his name tag. You boys lost? Morrison asked in accented galactic common. 3 mercenaries opened fire at once. Plasma bolts filled the corridor with deadly light. When the energy beams faded, the human was gone. Just gone like he had never been there. Behind you, a female voice said. Grixnall spun around to find a small human woman standing 2 meters away. Corporal Lisa Hayes held a plasma rifle that she must have taken from one of the dead mercenaries, but she wasn't pointing it at anyone. She was just standing there, calm as morning rain. How did you... Grixnall started to ask. Hayes moved. Not fast by human standards, but faster than any of the aliens expected. She covered 2 meters in a single bound and drove her elbow into Grixnall's throat. The big Krillian went down gasping. She took his weapon and vanished around a corner before anyone could react. They're just humans, Zexthul roared. Kill them! His remaining team opened fire on everything that moved. They shot at shadows and sounds and their own fears. Plasma burns scorched the walls. Emergency klaxons wailed. And one by one, the mercenaries kept dying. Morrison reappeared behind them, moving through the facility like he owned it. He used maintenance tools as weapons, turning simple repair equipment into instruments of death. A plasma torch became a cutting beam that sliced through armor. A gravity wrench became a club that crushed bones. Everything he touched became dangerous. Hayes worked from the shadows, picking off targets with stolen weapons. She knew every corridor and access tunnel. She appeared, fired, and disappeared before return fire could find her. Her shots never missed. Every plasma bolt found its target. The worst part was how quiet they were. Professional, like this was just another day at work. They didn't shout or curse or show any emotion at all. They just systematically eliminated threats with cold efficiency that made Zexthol's blood freeze. "Fall back," he finally ordered. "Return to the ship." Only 4 mercenaries made it to the landing zone. Zexthol, 2 corporals, and a weapons specialist. 8 elite Krillian killers dead in less than 20 minutes. Killed by 2 humans who weren't even wearing military uniforms. As they reached their assault pod, Morrison and Hayes appeared at the facility's main entrance. They weren't pursuing, they weren't shooting, they were just watching, making sure the mercenaries left. Morrison raised one hand in what might have been a farewell wave. "This is Zexthol to all Vorthak frequencies," the captain broadcast as his pod lifted off. "Priority alert to all mercenary channels. Avoid human targets. Repeat, avoid human targets at all costs. They are not what they seem." The message went out across the galaxy within the hour. Most mercenaries ignored it. Zexthol had always been paranoid, but some listened. The smart ones. The ones who wanted to live. Back on Kepler 442b, Morrison and Hayes watched the alien ship jump to hyperspace. Then they went back to work. The research station needed repairs and there were reports to file. Just another quiet day on the rim. But across the galaxy, in bars and safe houses where mercenaries gathered, a new legend was being born. A story about 2 humans who had done the impossible, who had made the Vorthak Syndicate run in terror. It was the first story, but it wouldn't be the last. Admiral Kethvar slammed his clawed fist on the conference table. The impact cracked the reinforced crystal surface and sent data tablets scattering across the floor. Around the table, the Hegemony Council's top military advisors flinched at their commander's rage. "Explain this to me again," Kethvar growled, his reptilian features twisted with disbelief. 12 elite Krillian mercenaries, battle-tested veterans, defeated by 2 humans in work clothes. General Yixtel, head of military intelligence, cleared his throat nervously. "The reports are accurate, sir. Captain Zexthol's team suffered 80% casualties. The humans used improvised weapons and terrain knowledge to—" "Improvised weapons," Kethvar interrupted, "against plasma rifles and combat armor. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds?" "Yes, sir. That's why we ordered a full xenobiological assessment of the human species. Dr. Yilnith has the results." All eyes turned to the Council's chief scientist. Dr. Yilnith was a Vorthak female, her blue-scaled skin marked with the ritual scars of her academic rank. She had studied dozens of species across the galaxy, but her hands shook as she activated her presentation display. "Honored Admiral," she began, "I must first establish context. When humans first appeared in galactic space 50 years ago, we classified them as a minor species. Low technology, small population, no immediate threat. We were wrong." The holographic display showed a blue-green planet rotating slowly in space. Earth looked peaceful from orbit, swirling white clouds over green continents and blue oceans. Nothing unusual. "This is their homeworld," Dr. Yilnith continued. "We've now completed a full planetary analysis. Earth is a Class 12 death world." Murmurs rippled around the table. Class 12 was the highest rating on the habitability scale, worlds so dangerous that most galactic species would die within hours of exposure. "The gravity is crushing," the doctor explained. 30% higher than galactic standard. The atmospheric pressure would rupture the lungs of most species. The oxygen content is so high it would be toxic to 60% of known life forms. Admiral Kethvar leaned forward. "Many species evolve on high-gravity worlds. That alone doesn't explain. There's more, sir. Much more. Dr. Yilnath touched a control and the display zoomed in on Earth's surface. The weather patterns are catastrophic by galactic standards. Hurricanes with wind speeds that would level our strongest buildings. Lightning storms that discharge enough energy to power a starship. Temperature variations that swing from deadly heat to killing cold within hours. The display showed tornadoes tearing across plains, massive waves crashing against coastlines, and volcanic eruptions that painted the sky red with fire. But the truly terrifying aspect is the biosphere itself, Dr. Yilnath said. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. 99% of Earth's native species are predatory in nature. Everything hunts everything else. The planet is one massive, killing ground where only the strongest survive. New images filled the display. Creatures with massive jaws filled with razor teeth. Striped hunters stalking through tall grass. Scaled predators lurking in murky water. Pack hunters with yellow eyes and terrible cunning. Humans didn't just survive on this nightmare world, the doctor continued. They became its apex predators. They hunted creatures 10 times their size using nothing but stone tools and teamwork. They learned to track prey across entire continents. For days without rest, they developed pack tactics that allowed them to kill anything that threatened them. General Yixtel studied the images with growing horror. How is this possible? They look so soft. Dr. Yilnath laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Appearances deceive, General. Human bone density is 3 times galactic standard. Their muscle fibers operate at efficiency levels that would tear apart most alien physiologies. Their cardiovascular system can function under pressure differentials that would cause other species to literally explode. She touched another control and anatomical diagrams replaced the nature footage. Cross-sections of human bone and muscle tissue. Detailed scans of their internal organs. But the physical adaptations are only part of the story, Dr. Yilnath said. The psychological profile is what truly makes them dangerous. Humans are persistence hunters. They evolved to pursue prey over vast distances without stopping. When they focus on a target, they don't give up. Ever. Admiral Kethvar studied the data with growing unease. You're saying they're naturally built for warfare. I'm saying they're built for survival on a planet that actively tries to kill everything living on it. Warfare is just another survival challenge to them, and they approach it with the same methodical determination they use for everything else. The display showed human military formations throughout their history, armies marching across frozen wasteland, soldiers advancing through smoke and fire, warriors scaling impossible cliffs to reach their enemies. There's something else, Dr. Yilnath said. Humans form pack bonds that override individual survival instincts. When threatened, they don't scatter like most species. They gather together and fight as a unified group. Each individual becomes stronger when supported by the pack. She showed footage of human rescue workers pulling survivors from collapsed buildings, firefighters running into burning structures to save strangers, soldiers carrying wounded comrades across battlefields under heavy fire. They will die for each other, the doctor said simply. Not for glory or honor or tactical advantage. They will sacrifice their lives for pack members without hesitation. This makes them unpredictable and extremely dangerous in combat situations. General Yixtel spoke up. But surely their technology level limits their effectiveness. They're decades behind us in weapons development. Dr. Yilnath shook her head. That's another mistake we made. Humans are tool users, not just weapon users. Tool users. They can turn any object in their environment into something useful. A repair tool becomes a weapon. A piece of scrap metal becomes armor. They adapt and improvise faster than any species we've encountered. The display showed human engineers building structures from salvaged materials, mechanics repairing complex machines with simple tools, soldiers creating effective weapons from household items. And individuals who defeated Captain Zexthel's team weren't even military specialists, Dr. Yilnath concluded. According to intercepted communications, Staff Sergeant Morrison was a logistics coordinator. Corporal Hayes worked in communications. They were just regular soldiers assigned to routine security duty. Silence filled the conference room. Admiral, Kethavar stared at the display showing two humans in simple work uniforms, the same two who had slaughtered 8 elite mercenaries in less than 20 minutes. If those were just regular soldiers, the Admiral said slowly, what are their actual military specialists capable of? Dr. Yilnith closed her presentation and looked directly at her commander. I don't know, sir, and I recommend we never find out. My analysis suggests we should avoid military confrontation with humans at all costs. They represent a level of threat we're not prepared to handle. Admiral Keithvar stood up from the table. Around him, the Council's military leadership looked shaken and uncertain. Everything they thought they knew about human capabilities had just been turned upside down. Update our threat assessment, he ordered. Classify human military forces as a priority concern, and send word to all mercenary companies operating in human space. Tell them to be very, very careful. But even as he gave the orders, Admiral Kethavar knew it was probably too late. The galaxy's underworld was about to learn what Dr. Yilnith had just taught them. Humans weren't just another minor species. They were apex predators from a world that bred killers. And they were spreading across the galaxy. Raid leader Gexmol had been pirating for 30 years. His ship, the Bloodclaw, had taken down over 200 vessels across 12 systems. The Skarn warrior was famous for never losing a target once he locked onto it. That reputation earned him the best contracts and the highest prices. The job seemed perfect. A human military transport carrying classified weapon designs through neutral space. The UES Valiant was running with minimal escort and a skeleton crew. Intelligence reported only 12 passengers and standard defensive systems. The cargo alone was worth 50 million credits on the black market. Easy prey, Gexmol told his crew as they prepared for the ambush. Humans are soft. They surrender quickly when faced with real firepower. His fleet consisted of 3 attack vessels and 47 veteran pirates. Each ship mounted military-grade weapons taken from previous raids. They had never failed to crack a target, no matter how well defended. The trap was set in the Kepler asteroid field, a maze of floating rocks and metal debris left over from an ancient mining operation. Perfect cover for an ambush. The human transport would have to follow the shipping lane through the field. When it reached the center, Gexmol's ships would surround it. The UES Valiant appeared exactly on schedule. A standard military transport, nothing special about its design or armament. It moved slowly through the asteroid field, following the marked navigation route like every other cargo hauler. Target acquired, Gexmol's weapons officer reported. All systems green. Begin the attack, Gexmol ordered. Plasma cannons opened. Fire from 3 directions. The transport's shields flared and collapsed under the concentrated barrage. Hull breaches appeared along its sides as atmosphere vented into space. The engine section took several direct hits and went dark. Surrender your vessel, Gexmol broadcast on standard frequencies. Prepare to be boarded. The human ship's response came through static-filled communications. This is Major Ryan Campbell, Commanding Officer UES Valiant. We are abandoning ship. Repeat, we are abandoning ship. Gexmol watched through his viewports as 12 figures in spacesuits jetted away from the crippled transport. They scattered in different directions using the asteroid field as cover. Standard procedure for a hopeless situation. Let them go, Gexmol decided. They'll run out of air in a few hours. Boarding teams secure the cargo. His pirates moved toward the abandoned transport and assault shuttles. The operation should have been finished in 20 minutes. Instead, it became a nightmare that would haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. The first shuttle exploded without warning. One moment it was approaching the transport's cargo bay. The next it was a ball of expanding fire and debris. 6 pirates died instantly. What happened? Gexmol demanded over the comm. Unknown, sir, his second-in-command replied. Sensors show no hostile contacts. The second shuttle made it to the transport and docked successfully. The boarding team entered the ship and began searching for the cargo. Their reports came through normally for 5 minutes. Then the communications went silent. Boarding team report, Gexmol ordered. Static answered him. The third shuttle found the boarding team's bodies floating in the transport's cargo hold. All 6 pirates had been killed, but not by weapons fire. Their throats had been cut with precision that suggested military training. Their equipment was missing. Impossible, Gexmal muttered. The humans abandoned ship. We saw them leave. His weapons officer pointed at the sensor display. Sir, we're reading movement inside the asteroid field. Multiple contacts. The humans hadn't fled. They had dispersed into the debris field and were using it as cover for their own attack. What Gexmal had thought was a retreat was actually a tactical deployment. Major Campbell's voice came through on pirate communication frequencies. Somehow the humans had hacked their secure channels. Bloodclaw, this is Major Campbell. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender. Gexmal laughed at the absurdity. You're floating in spacesuits with no weapons. What are you going to do? Throw rocks at us? Something like that, Campbell replied. The first asteroid hit the Bloodclaw's port engine exactly 30 seconds later. It wasn't a random chunk of rock. Someone had attached thruster packs to guide its trajectory. The impact knocked out the ship's main power and sent it spinning toward a larger debris field. Emergency power, Gexmal shouted. All guns target those humans. His gunners fired wildly into the asteroid field, hitting rocks and empty space. The humans were too small and too well hidden among the debris. Every shot missed its target. The second guided asteroid struck the Bloodclaw's weapon array. The second, third hit the bridge, cracking the main viewport and forcing the crew to evacuate to emergency stations. Petty Officer Amy Rodriguez appeared on the ship's external cameras. She was somehow outside the hull, placing explosive devices on critical systems. Her spacesuit allowed her to move through zero gravity like she had been born in space. How did she get there? Gexmal's pilot asked in panic. Rodriguez had used the ship's own landing thrusters as handholds, climbing across the hull while the crew focused on the asteroid bombardment. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had trained for exactly this situation. The explosives she planted weren't meant to destroy the ship. They were carefully positioned to disable specific systems, weapons, engines, life support, communications. Each blast was precisely calculated to cripple without killing. Lieutenant Commander Paul Mitchell coordinated the attack from somewhere in the debris field. His voice came through the pirate comm system with tactical updates that seemed impossible for a small unit to execute. Rodriguez, port thruster disabled. Campbell, clear approach on target 2. Hayes, you have overwatch on the primary. The pirates realized they weren't fighting 12 random soldiers. This was a coordinated military unit with specialized training and equipment. Each human knew exactly what the others were doing at all times. One by one, Gexmal's ships went dark. Not destroyed, but systematically disabled by humans who treated zero-gravity combat like a routine training exercise. They used the asteroid field itself as a weapon, turning floating debris into guided missiles. The final humiliation came when the humans boarded all 3 pirate vessels simultaneously. They moved through the ships with night vision gear and non-lethal weapons, stunning the crews into unconsciousness rather than killing them. When military rescue ships arrived 6 hours later, they found the entire Skarn raiding fleet disabled and drifting. 47 pirates were unconscious but alive, secured in their own holding cells. The human soldiers were waiting calmly in the asteroid field, having completed their mission with 0 casualties. The incident report spread through mercenary channels within days, but this time more people paid attention. The Vorthak Syndicate's warning about humans was starting to look less like paranoia and more like solid intelligence. They fight like they're already dead. One of the surviving pirates told his cellmates, no fear, no hesitation. They just do whatever needs to be done. Another survivor added his own observation. They turned the whole asteroid field into a trap, made us think we were hunting them when they were hunting us. The report that reached mercenary commanders across the galaxy was simple and terrifying. Humans didn't just fight effectively. They rewritten the rules of engagement while their enemies were still trying to understand what was happening. Major Campbell's final transmission became legendary in certain circles. When asked how 12 soldiers had defeated 47 pirates in their own territory, his answer was chillingly matter-of-fact. We did what we were trained to do. The enemy underestimated us. That was their mistake. But the real message was clear to anyone who listened carefully. These weren't just soldiers. They were apex predators who had learned to hunt in 3 dimensions, and they were very good at their job. Guild Commander Vexani had heard the stories, whispered rumors in mercenary bars about humans who fought like demons, tales of entire raiding fleets destroyed by handfuls of human soldiers. Most mercenaries dismissed these stories as fear-mongering by incompetent pirates. Vexani knew better. She had survived 40 years in the mercenary business by taking every threat seriously. When the Zephyrian Mercenary Guild received a 50 million credit contract to rescue a corporate executive from Luna Station, she assembled the largest assault force in the guild's history. 60 elite soldiers, military-grade power armor, energy weapons capable of punching through starship hulls, orbital bombardment support. Everything needed to overwhelm any reasonable defense. The target was a human black site prison built inside a converted asteroid. Intelligence reports showed 30 guards and 100 prisoners. The facility was isolated in deep space with minimal backup. The rescue should have been routine. Remember, Vexani told her troops as they prepared for the assault, humans are dangerous in small numbers, but we have overwhelming firepower. Stick to the plan, and this will be over quickly. Her assault fleet dropped out of hyperspace at Luna Station's coordinates. The prison facility was exactly where intelligence had said it would be. A dark asteroid honeycombed with tunnels and chambers. Sensor scans showed human life signs scattered throughout the complex. Begin bombardment, Vexani ordered. Plasma. Cannons opened fire on the station's external defenses. Weapon emplacements and sensor arrays vanished in balls of superheated gas. Communication dishes melted into twisted metal. The outer hull breached in dozens of places. But instead of surrendering, something unexpected happened. Emergency blast doors sealed throughout the facility. Automated defense systems came online. The asteroid itself seemed to transform into a fortress. Boarding teams, go, Vexani commanded. Her soldiers moved in through the breach points in perfect formation. They wore powered armor that could stop small arms fire and carried weapons that could cut through steel. Against 30 human guards, they should have been unstoppable. The first surprise came when the prisoners joined the fight. Sergeant Tony Rivers was serving 20 years for striking an officer. Master Sergeant Kate Brooks had been convicted of selling military supplies. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Martinez was doing life for treason. By all accounts, they should have hated their guards and welcomed rescue. Instead, they fought alongside their captors with deadly efficiency. "What's happening down there?" Vexani demanded over the comm. "The prisoners are fighting with the guards," one of her squad leaders reported. "They're working together like a military unit." This made no sense by alien logic. Prisoners and guards were enemies, natural opponents who should never cooperate. But Dr. Elena Foster, a captured human scientist, explained the situation during a brief ceasefire negotiation. "You don't understand how humans work," she told Vexani through the comm system. "When faced with an external threat, we form pack bonds that override individual conflicts. You're not fighting guards and prisoners anymore. You're fighting a unified human group that sees you as invaders." Vexani had studied human psychology, but she had never encountered anything like this. The humans inside Luna Station moved with coordination that seemed almost telepathic. They shared ammunition, executed tactical retreats, and set up crossfire patterns with precision that suggested years of training together. Rivers and Brooks had been enemies for 3 years. Rivers had testified at Brooks' court-martial. Brooks had blamed Rivers for her conviction. But when the mercenaries breached their section, they fought back-to-back like lifelong partners. "Cover the left flank," Rivers shouted, firing a stolen plasma rifle at advancing mercenaries. "Got it," Brooks replied, rolling to a new position without being told where to go. They moved like dancers who had practiced the same routine 1,000 times. But they had never trained together. The coordination came from something else, something the aliens couldn't understand. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez coordinated the defense from the prison's command center. He had been locked up for selling secrets to enemy governments. The guards who worked the facility had stood watch over him for 5 years. They should have despised each other. Instead, they worked together to turn Luna Station into a killing ground for the invading mercenaries. Sector 7 needs support, one of the guards reported. Martinez, can your people hold the medical bay? Asked another. We've got it covered, Martinez replied, directing a team of prisoners to defensive positions. The battle became a grinding nightmare of corridor fighting. Every passage was contested. Every room became a fortress. The humans used their knowledge of the facility to create interlocking fields of fire that channeled the mercenaries into prepared kill zones. Vexani watched her casualty reports climb with growing disbelief. 20 soldiers down. 30. 40. Her overwhelming numerical advantage was disappearing in the maze of tunnels and chambers that made up Luna Station. They know every inch of this place, one of her squad leaders reported. They're using maintenance shafts and ventilation ducts to move around. We can't pin them down. The humans fought with weapons they had improvised from prison supplies. Maintenance tools became clubs and spears. Chemical supplies became explosive devices. Even furniture became barricades and weapons platforms. But the most unsettling aspect was their absolute unity. Former enemies worked together without hesitation. Military prisoners took orders from the guards who had watched them for years. Guards trusted convicted traitors to cover their backs in firefights. It's like they're all part of the same organism, one mercenary reported before his squad was overrun. They know what each other is thinking. Dr. Foster's voice came through, the comm system again. You still don't understand. Humans form tribal bonds that transcend individual circumstances. When you attack this facility, you didn't create a situation where prisoners would fight guards. You created a situation where all humans would fight outsiders who threatened their territory. 18 hours into the assault, Vexani made the decision to retreat. Her force had been reduced to 23 effective soldiers. The humans had suffered casualties too, but they showed no signs of surrender or weakness. Fall back to the ships, she ordered. We're leaving. Her after-action report introduced new terminology to mercenary vocabulary. Human pack tactics became the standard term for the phenomenon her soldiers had encountered. The ability of humans to form instant cooperative bonds when facing outside threats. The report's conclusion was stark and professional. Recommend against accepting contracts involving more than 3 humans without overwhelming numerical superiority. Human psychological bonding patterns make conventional tactics ineffective. They do not fight as individuals. They fight as a collective, organism with shared intelligence and coordinated responses. But the most disturbing part of the report was its final observation. The humans at Luna Station hadn't been trying to kill the mercenaries. They had been trying to capture them. The weapons they used were mostly non-lethal. The traps they set were designed to disable rather than destroy. Subject species demonstrate sophisticated understanding of enemy psychology, the report concluded. They appear to study opponent capabilities during combat and adapt tactics in real time. Recommend extreme caution when engaging human military personnel under any circumstances. The message spread through mercenary channels like wildfire. Luna Station had proven that human cooperation wasn't limited to trained soldiers. Any group of humans under the right circumstances could become a coordinated fighting force. Back at Luna Station, the prisoners and guards were already repairing the damage from the assault, working together, just like they had fought together. The crisis had passed, but the bonds formed during the battle remained. Rivers and Brooks were no longer enemies. Martinez was no longer just a prisoner. They were all part of something larger now. Something that aliens like Vexani could never truly understand. They were pack, and pack protected pack no matter what. The Blacklaw Consortium was the most feared mercenary organization in the galaxy. For 200 years they had conquered worlds and toppled governments. Their reputation was built on absolute ruthlessness and overwhelming force. When they accepted a contract, the target always fell. But 6 months after Luna Station, even the Blacklaw was feeling nervous about human targets. I don't like it, said War Chief Graxoth, studying the mission briefings in his command chamber. Too many failures. Too many good mercenaries dead or broken. His second-in-command, battle leader Vorthak, dismissed these concerns with a gesture. Stories and rumors. The other companies were weak. We are the Black Claw. We have never failed. The contract seemed straightforward enough. A human mining colony on Titan 7 had discovered rare crystals worth billions of credits. The Hegemony Council wanted those crystals and was willing to pay 200 million to get them. Intelligence reported 300 colonists, with minimal military protection. We deploy 200 soldiers, Graxoth decided. Full orbital support. If humans are as dangerous as the rumors claim, we overwhelm them with numbers. What the intelligence reports didn't mention was Delta Team 7. Colonel Marcus Stone had been expecting trouble for weeks. Human intelligence networks had detected unusual mercenary activity in the system. When the Black Claw fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Titan 7, he wasn't surprised. Here they come, he told his team over the comm. Just like we planned. Delta Team 7 consisted of 6 soldiers. Colonel Stone, Master Chief Hannah Cole, Staff Sergeant Danny Wright, Sergeant Major Victoria Nash, Captain Alex Turner, and Lieutenant Sarah Kim. They were the latest generation of human special forces, enhanced through genetic modification and cybernetic implants, trained for operations against technologically superior opponents. The mercenaries began with orbital bombardment. Plasma beams from space turned the colony's main buildings into smoking craters. The mining equipment melted into twisted metal. Communication towers toppled and burned, but the humans had already evacuated into Titan 7's methane storms. The moon's atmosphere was so toxic that most alien species would die within minutes of exposure. For the enhanced soldiers of Delta Team 7, it was just another environment to master. All teams begin deployment, Graxoth ordered from his flagship. 200 elite mercenaries descended to the surface in assault dropships. They wore full environmental suits and carried heavy weapons. Against 300 civilian miners, they should have ended the resistance in hours. Instead, they found themselves fighting ghosts. Colonel Stone had studied the Black Claw's tactics for 3 days before the attack. He knew how they moved, how they thought, how they would deploy their forces. By the time the mercenaries landed, he was already inside their decision-making cycle. Predicted landing zones confirmed, he reported to his team. They're following. Standard assault doctrine. Wright, Nash take positions Alpha and Beta. Cole prepare the surprises. Master Chief Cole was an engineering specialist who understood how to turn industrial equipment into military assets. The mining colony's heavy machinery became her personal weapon system. Ore processors became kinetic launchers. Refinery pipes became explosive devices. Construction equipment became mobile weapons platforms. The first mercenary squad died when their dropship landed on what they thought was solid ground. Cole had undermined the landing zone with precision explosives. The entire squad vanished into a methane bog that she had created specifically for that purpose. Staff Sergeant Wright and Sergeant Major Nash worked as a sniper team. They used Titan 7's atmospheric conditions to mask their positions, picking off targets from ranges that should have been impossible in the dense methane fog. Their enhanced vision systems let them see clearly while the mercenaries stumbled blind through the storms. "Contact left," a mercenary squad leader shouted over the comm. "Where?" his soldiers replied, spinning in circles as plasma bolts emerged from the swirling methane clouds. "I can't see them." Captain Turner was a tactical genius who understood orbital mechanics better than most starship navigators. He used Titan 7's rotation as a strategic asset, timing attacks to coincide with gravitational anomalies that threw off enemy targeting systems. Lieutenant Kim specialized in psychological warfare. She had studied dozens of alien cultures and knew exactly how to exploit their fears and weaknesses. Her voice came through the mercenary comm systems at random intervals, speaking in perfect Krillian dialect. "Your friends are already dead," she would whisper. "You're next." The mercenaries began to panic. Their thermal sensors showed human signatures everywhere and nowhere. Their tactical displays registered contacts that vanished when they tried to target them. The enhanced soldiers moved through Titan 7's hostile environment like it was their natural habitat. "How many humans are there?" War Chief Graxoth demanded from orbit. "Unknown, sir," his ground commander replied. "We're taking fire from multiple directions. They seem to be everywhere at once, but there were only 6. 6 humans who had turned an entire moon into their personal battlefield. Colonel Stone coordinated the defense with precision that seemed almost supernatural. He appeared to know where every mercenary squad was at all times. His tactical decisions were always 3 steps ahead of the enemy's responses. Nash, suppress the eastern approach. Right overwatch on the mining platform. Cole, initiate surprise package Delta. The surprise was a methane storm that Cole had artificially enhanced using the colony's atmospheric processors. Hurricane force. Winds carrying toxic gases swept across the battlefield, forcing the mercenaries to take shelter while the human soldiers continued their attacks. For 7 days, the battle raged across Titan VII's surface. The Black Claw Consortium threw everything they had at 6 human soldiers. Orbital bombardment, armored vehicles, chemical weapons. Nothing worked. The humans adapted to every tactic faster than the mercenaries could implement them. They learned from each engagement and adjusted their strategies in real time. What had started as a simple colonial raid became a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. On the 8th day, War Chief Graxoth made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He ordered a full retreat. All units return to orbit immediately, he broadcast. We are leaving the system. His final transmission to mercenary networks across the galaxy became legendary. They're not soldiers. They're evolution's answer to warfare itself. The Deathworlders don't just fight. They rewrite the rules of combat while you're still trying to understand what's happening. The survivors who made it back to the fleet were broken soldiers. They had been defeated not by superior numbers or better weapons, but by something they couldn't comprehend. 6 humans who fought like they were already dead, who turned every disadvantage into an advantage, who seemed to know what their enemies would do before the enemies knew themselves. Admiral Kethvar received the after-action report with growing horror. Delta Team 7 wasn't unique. Intelligence suggested that Earth had hundreds of such units deployed throughout human space. Each team consisted of enhanced soldiers with capabilities that exceeded anything in the galactic military inventory. Update our threat assessment, he told his staff. Human special forces are now classified as a strategic level threat. No military engagement without overwhelming superiority and orbital bombardment capability. But even as he gave the orders, Admiral Kethvar knew the truth that terrified him most. The 6 soldiers of Delta Team 7 were just one unit. Earth had hundreds more like them, and they were spreading across the galaxy like a plague of perfect predators. The legend of human special forces spread through the galaxy's underworld faster than hyperspace communication. Mercenary companies began refusing contracts that involved human targets. Pirate fleets changed course when they detected human ships. Criminal organizations evacuated entire systems when they learned that human military units were operating in the area. The message was always the same, carried by the few who had survived encounters with Earth's finest warriors. They're not like other species. They're something else entirely, and they're coming. In the deepest, darkest corners of the galaxy, where the most dangerous criminals gathered to share their fears, a new truth had emerged. Humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They were apex predators from a world that bred killers, and they had brought their hunting instincts to the stars. The age of easy prey was over. The Deathworlders had arrived.